I have been looking forward to talking to you for a while, man. I've been watching what you guys have been doing for a long time. Pretty much since you got started. I'd love to, hear more about it. Just go ahead and introduce yourself. This is Gary Lamb. You got a lot of different hats that you wear,
I
but
do.
let's talk about the shirt that you're wearing today and your promoter MMA hat.
Yeah, I am Gary Lamb. I'm a promoter by a living. I put on festivals, concerts, wrestling, and about a year and a half ago, we started Elev8 Fight League with my partner Warren Thompson here in North Georgia. We're about 40 minutes north of Atlanta.
Yeah. About 40 minutes north of Atlanta. Not bad. I'm in Athens, Georgia. So, you
Oh,
know, oh,
okay.
okay, yeah. So, I've been around for a little bit. But I haven't been active in the state. I have not been active in the state. Unfortunately, I made some powerful enemies uh in the Georgia community, and they don't want my message to be heard. And it's kind of weird because it's only trying to help the fighters, but they don't want the fighters to understand their value or
Well,
to
it
go to
definitely
different promotions.
seems like an overwhelming theme here in Georgia.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you guys have run into a little bit of that as well.
We started. We just got done with our sixth show. I think March 23rd, and we we're not officially suspended yet, I guess you could say. Our suspension was supposed to start March 24th, and we're in the appeal process. But the appeal process is kind of a joke because you're suspended. Because though on paper you're in good standing, we can't get any shows approved. They won't do anything. They table everything we bring before the board. So while you're in the appeal process, for all intents and purposes, you're suspended. Or let me
You can't.
rephrase that: not by the book, but the way the current commission operates.
Yeah, so I was a lot of people gonna have a lot of questions about that. I myself had a few questions. I know Warren had an interview last night that I watched, and he shed a little bit of light on your situation, that you got suspended, but you're not really suspended, but you in effect you're suspended because you cannot do any shows. So, how does that even happen? Tell me what does the suspension start at for those who do not know? I mean, why is that? There's so few shows in Georgia. Why are you guys getting suspended?
Yes. So in this particular case, now we have a few more charges that are going to be brought up against us because we have a what we believe to be a conflict of interest with one of the commissioners. He seems to nitpick everything that we do. In Georgia, you become a promoter. You pay $500. You fill out a promoter's license. They do a background check on you. You start your LLC. You get your bonds, and then you're approved to do shows. And we've been working with Executive Director Matt Woodruff, and I have to admit, Woodruff has been great to us. If we've had questions, he's answered those questions. He's been made available to us. But at the end of the day, it's a 97-page rule book. And you just kind of get pushed into the deep end. There's no training, it's not like ref training, it's not like judge training. You get pushed in, and you kind of figure out on the fly. And that really worked well for us through the first three shows. We had the commission would show up, the head of the show would show up, the person in charge would show up. They would tell us, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that. Let's tweak this before the next show. Hey, remember the next time this has got to operate like that. And then at our fourth show, that was in August of 23. In July of 23, Clay Bennett became a commissioner. He showed up at our show. That was the first time we had someone from the board of commissioners show up at our show.
And
And with
who's Clay Bennett, and how does he get qualified to become a commissioner? How does this happen?
Either the governor or the secretary of state appoints him. He's been very active in another promotion of the state, NFC. He is their head referee. He is their matchmaker for their jiu-jitsu. He was, well, until this last week, he was an admin on all their Facebook pages.
Wow.
Very close with David Oblas. And so I'm sure through serving through that, through David running NFC for 20, 25 years, I'm sure there was some pull in that, being active in the community, being willing to do that. So he was appointed in July of 23. And August shows up at our show, doesn't introduce himself within 4 minutes, 5 minutes of being in our show, literally is trying to shut our show down because we were serving beverages out of cans. There is a rule that says you can't do that. We weren't aware of the rule. We'd been doing it through the first 3 shows, had never had an official
Just
say.
can't. You just can't. Hold on. Go back here. Hold on. Rewind. Hold on. Back up 1 second here. So, cans.
Yeah, so
This
Sprite
is
cans,
over.
beer cans.
A beer can, was it? So you had a Sprite can. Was it too close to the cage or
Well, so
what?
we don't use a cage, we use a ring. They have barriers around them. Our front row is about 15 feet from the ring. And I get it. Now that I understand the rule, I understand cans, you can chunk them. We just weren't aware of the rule. Our first 3 shows, we never had a commission official point out that we had cans. For that matter, the judges and the refs were sitting around the ring with cans, Monster energy drinks, all kinds of different things. So instead of coming to us explaining that it was a rule, we probably needed to change it. He immediately starts to threaten to shut down the show. I tell him he's not shutting down our show. It's not going to be an option. He gets on the phone with Executive Director Woodruff. Woodruff says, we've never enforced that rule. We're not shutting down a show. We will deal with it on Monday. So, we got off to a real good start with Commissioner Bennett. As he's leaving that first show, I shake his hand. I tell him, I say, man, I enjoy you coming to the show. Man, we just want to see fighting in Georgia good. I said, everything I say is in good nature. I'm a promoter by trade. It's what I do. And he looks at me and says, well, I would encourage you to stay off podcast talking about David, meaning David
What?
O. And
What? No, yeah. Okay. Oh
and
wow.
so I kind of
Wow.
chuckled. He kind of awkwardly chuckled and walked away. I'd never mentioned Mr. Bennett on a podcast. I had mentioned Oblas one time on a podcast. I'm not sure why that was the commissioner's business. Pretty sure we have freedom of speech. But
Yeah, well, I find that interesting actually because David Oblas has no problem mentioning me on his podcast.
right, right.
So, I just find that super hypocritical, and that seems to be one of the biggest issues that's going on here in the Georgia MMA scene. Is that you really essentially have this one guy in
You have a
control
monopoly.
of everything, a monopoly, absolutely. And if you guys are stepping up, I love what you guys are doing. You're providing opportunity. And to my knowledge, you guys aren't even really doing a lot of MMA fights. You guys are really focusing mainly on kickboxing.
Yeah,
Uh,
Muay Thai is our bread and butter. I would say we're probably, don't quote me on this, we're 70% Muay Thai, 30% MMA. Because we do use a ring. Guys a lot of times don't want to do MMA in the ring. And so
right.
we like the ring for the sights, the cage. We feel like it's hard to see through on a flat surface.
Absolutely.
Looks great on USC when you're sitting in an arena, not when you're sitting in a flat former grocery store. So fast forward a couple of weeks, we had a clerical error. It was a mistake on our part. My accountant entered our email address wrong with the Secretary of State. We didn't get our notice to renew our LLC. We weren't aware that it had expired. Strangely enough, though, it dissolved very quickly. Normally, when your LLC expires, it takes a while in the state of Georgia for it to dissolve, unless someone's trying to claim your LLC.
Right.
And so suddenly ours was dissolved instantly. It was brought to the attention. An anonymous source told Clay Bennett. Clay Bennett told the executive director, Matt Woodruff. Woodruff
Yep.
called us. I was very confused how that happened. I called our accountant. Within about 20 minutes, we had figured out the mistake. We paid a rush fee, $500. We had it reinstated within 24 hours. And in Georgia, the way it reads is once your dissolved LLC is reinstated, it's retroactive to the day it was
Right.
dissolved. It's like it was never dissolved.
Yes.
So, but we did. We ran 2 shows with that. Mr. Bennett thought that was the end of the world, brought us in, basically chastised his question. He kept saying, I don't want to question their motives in letting their LLC expire. And I wanted to be like, it's
What?
$150. Well, like, do you think we would jeopardize our company for $150?
What would your motive be? I mean, I'm just curious. What does that suggest?
I don't know. They found out after that there is no rule in the athletic commission that you even have to have an LLC. So they moved from us not having an LLC to I lied on my promoter's license because my promoter's license listed Elev8 Fight League LLC. The problem with that is when I turned in my promoter's license in June, our LLC was still active. So that didn't work. So then it turned into, well, when they turned in their event permit, they wrote Elev8 Fight League LLC, and their LLC was dissolved. He said hypothetically he didn't know that the insurance would pay out. Everybody we've talked to says the insurance would have paid out. I'm a writer on the insurance. The building is a rider on the insurance. It was a mistake, and we were open to a fine. We actually told him to give us the maximum fine. Every one of the board members,
But a fine was just not an option. It just wasn't an
it was
option.
to every board member except Mr. Bennett, who said he wasn't going to leave the meeting until there was a suspension. And
Wow.
so it ended up being 2 months suspension for each infraction, a 4-month suspension.
So
And
what? So what's going on? Is that why is Clay Bennett going so hard against you guys? What's going on here? For those people who don't know, I mean, it just sounds super weird to me. A lot of guys at home, I mean, I'm breaking news on this. I've dealt with Georgia before. I've dealt with NFC. I've seen over the years how the power structure has gone and what it looks like. Unfortunately, that's why I have gone to different states. Fortunately, unfortunately, either way, I've been able to go to different states, see how they operate, and then I've also been able to see how choked off Georgia is and how little opportunity is really present. And that's why I've been watching you guys and rooting for you guys so hard, is because it's just some new opportunity for these guys. And that's better. I do a lot of work in Florida. I do marketing for MMA fights. I do matchmaking. I work with fighters individually, work with different gyms. Our goal is to kind of help these guys understand their value to the sport and how they can get financial opportunity by helping the local businesses
right.
around them, just kind of helping them understand where they lie in the sport as far as the business aspect of it. And I just find it super interesting that Georgia, as talented as the athletes are and as great as the sporting events are, we sell out shows. There's a really a big crowd of people who support the athletics here. It
Right.
just makes no sense for why there hasn't been an explosion of growth that's consistent with the rest of the country, right? You look down in Florida and you got 34 different promotions all active doing, like 200 shows in a year. And you look up there, up north right here in Georgia, and, you got, maybe 20 shows in a year. And that's, most of them by one show.
Yeah.
So
Like I said, I'm a promoter by living. I promote about 40 events a year. Fighting is the easiest thing I've ever promoted. You just post about it and people show up. Like, this should be a hotbed for fights.
yes,
There should be fights every weekend in Georgia. And the fact
absolutely.
that nobody seems to make it except for one promotion, somebody's got to step back and ask. I joke that we don't even have to announce the fights to sell out our shows.
No, you don't.
No, we just
You're
never have fights
starved.
and people come.
These people are starved. The Georgia fans are starved for MMA, and it's just this one guy sitting at the top, and he's just choking everybody else off and making sure that he remains, for all intents and purposes, the big man on campus.
Yeah, and
Uh,
in his desire to build his kingdom, he has limited the overall growth and it limited his growth too. Because the
Absolutely,
reality is a rising tide lifts all ships. We've
absolutely,
created a vibe. You can go back to their marketing. They've changed their marketing since we've come along. They've started bringing in videos. Their graphics have got better. Why? Because we raised the game. They're raising the game. Everyone's raising the game. The fighters are raising their. Now the fighters know that they can get on different shows. The fight scene in Georgia the last year and a half, there's a huge buzz about it simply because there's two promotions.
absolutely,
Man,
absolutely.
yeah.
I've
But
been
there's a
watching
conflict.
that.
He's a smart guy. He's been in it 20 years. Now his doctor is on the board, who's sponsoring his ring. His matchmaker's on the board. I just don't know how the commission in good conscience can look at that and say there's not a conflict of interest, how they cannot look back through the history of promotions getting put out. It's
Absolutely,
amazing. We went public, the hundreds of messages we've gotten from people in the fight world, but they didn't want
absolutely,
them to be blackballed. They didn't want to be their fighters to be blackballed. They didn't want to fight the battle. For me, I'm not a lifer in this industry. If I never put on fights again, I'm going to be disappointed, but my life goes on. I'm still going to make money. I'm still going to put on events. So I really
absolutely.
have nothing to lose and figure we might as well bring the whole thing down in the process.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you guys stepping up. Once again, it's close to my heart because I, I fought in Georgia on the amateur level. I fought for the NFC. That was one of my first promotions that I fought for. Was a big ticket seller for them. And, that was also one of the earliest lessons that I got in how shady and underhanded the industry can be is, is when you realize that, right, as soon as you start talking about positive things or talking about fighters going and traveling, exploring other options, you get banned. I mean, blacklisted, banned. And then, it's amazing to me that that's all it takes is someone to say that they are looking for opportunity for the fighters, and it just makes it so obvious, so transparent for of what you really are trying to do, and how you're hamstringing the growth of this industry, especially in
No,
the Georgia area.
but when you're one show, you can set the price, you can set the dates, you can set what gyms get used because there is nowhere else to go. And
Mhm.
so hey, give him credit. It makes all the sense in the world. If you don't care about the overall sport, if you're trying to
Yep.
build your kingdom, it makes all the sense in the world. And I get competitive. So we had them take fights from us, different things. That's business. That doesn't bother me. We did the same thing. We offered more money. That's business. I'm all for that. I just don't understand being too afraid to compete. Let's
It's a
not get to.
good thing, though.
It's a great
Competition
thing.
is good.
It's a
Competition is
great.
good.
There's a reason Kroger and Publix open across the street from each other. CVS and Walgreens open across the street from each other. Competition
Absolutely.
is good. It creates opportunities. And so what's funny is if you look at the NFC's last couple of shows, they've all been sellouts. It's not like we have hurt their attendance. They're
No,
selling out every show.
no,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely not. And it's like it just gets so it goes comes back down to the fighter and how they're missing out on opportunities because like you just said, you alluded to earlier, there's hundreds, lots of people reach out to you when you step up and you fight these guys because there is no other option. And if you are able to provide another option for these guys, it just puts them out of business. It kind of puts them out of business. So it's really kind of a very sad situation that these guys feel so much fear from standing up and even fighting for you guys. I know that there's probably been a lot of people who would even have to think about fighting for you because the chances of NFC and David Oblas matching them up again, being able to fight in their home state is dramatically decreased because he's such a petty guy. He holds grudges, you know what I mean? And it's just not fair for the fighters in this area. So I commend you guys for what you're doing. Keep it up. I
and we
support
want, and
you.
we've had fighters come to us and say, "Hey, NFC's offering this," and I've heard Warren tell them over and over, "Fight as much as you can. Go fight for those guys. Do whatever you need to do." Fighters want to fight, and I mean, you can go back to college football: Texas, California, Florida, Georgia. That's the four states. Georgia ought to be one of the top four states in fighting in the country, and we're
It's at the
not.
bottom.
We're
It's
at
at
the
the bottom.
bottom. One promotion makes
it's,
no sense. But it's
one
always
promotion.
going to be that way until we get the commission to acknowledge that there's been an issue, swallow their pride, and say, hey, we've allowed a man to take over, put people in positions who now dictate policy and procedure in our state, even if it's a conflict of interest. Until that happens,
Absolutely.
until the establishment is brought down, another promotion will never be able to see success here.
Absolutely. And I want to ask you one question with that being said, that's a big vision. That's a big goal. That's a big goal and I support you in it and I want you to succeed in that. Now, when let's say you are successful in your journey, what what does the future look like? What does that look like?
I mean, we have big plans for Elevate. We've seen the potential. We've had tourism boards from other cities, Augusta, Macon, Dalton, reach out to
Mhm.
us, wanting us to bring fights there. We wanted to go about 2 years in our hometown, learn the
Right.
ins and outs, learn what we were doing. And I do think you can take this show on the road. I think the vibe that we've created, we're more than a fight show. You show up to our thing, it's an event. There's a DJ and there's bar and there's food trucks. And man, there's 1,000 to 1,200 people. It becomes the place to be, even
Absolutely.
non-fight fans. And that's a different thing about our format. We don't rely on the fighters in the gyms to show up and sell tickets. We're selling tickets because I'm a promoter. It's Warren's a promoter. And so we could run an all amateur show. We could run another sanctioning body show, and we'll still sell out our building because that's just what we do. And so bringing new fight fans in, taking our show on the road. I tell you, I've been in the event business for 10 years. I do barbecue and brews. I run the biggest wrestling promotion in the state. Nothing,
Absolutely.
nothing has the potential that Elevate Fight League has. It's wide open, and there's so much potential for a fight league that is run with integrity, run right, and where the fighters and the fans are the only two priorities.
Absolutely, man. Man, that's why I support you guys. I've been watching it from the beginning. I've seen the pictures. Unfortunately, every time you guys have a fight, you guys pick great dates. I'm usually at a different fight in Florida, but
Get it?
that's why I saw you guys got suspended, and I was really upset because I was like, I keep telling myself, I go, man, I'm coming to the next one. I'm coming to the next one. I'm coming to the next one. Let's see what the next date is. And then I see it suspended, and I was just like, "Oh my God, what's going on here? This sounds eerily familiar
Well, I don't
to
think the
how."
commission expected us to go public. I told them in the meeting I was going to go public, and they laughed. I said,
Yeah,
if you suspend us, I'm going public. And so they can't say I'm not a man of my word. I just know there's power in the people. To go silently about it doesn't do anything. You've got to
absolutely,
rally the people. You've got to get the emails going. They've got to see the discontent in the Georgia fight tribes, the community, and realize we're no longer going to put up with the bullshit that is happening at the Capitol.
absolutely, man, and that's exactly where it's happening at. It is, it's happening from one man putting his people in position. We need to change that. The Georgia Athletic and Entertainment Commission needs to be dealt with, and it's up to we the people.
There needs to
I
be some
myself.
honesty and transparency. That's all we need. Honesty. We're not asking for special treatment. Man, if we even accepted our suspension, we said we would accept the suspension. We thought it was too harsh for a clerical error. We said we would accept it, but then they came back and wouldn't accept it after they offered it unless we scrubbed our social media and issued a public apology. That's not happening because we're not sorry.
No, well, what do you have to apologize for?
Right. We're telling the
You're a
truth.
you're a new promotion. You're six shows in. You're still learning. As the state, who should want to make money in the sport, they should be able to see that this is a growing opportunity. You're only the second promotion to be active as much as you are in this state, and you're obviously not getting any guidance and help from the major promotion who's
Right.
run over 100 shows in the state.
Right.
Instead of that, quite contrary, they're actually looking to hurt you and put you out of business.
Yeah, it
So,
makes no
you know,
sense.
it just, that can't be allowed to happen. That's not the Georgia that I know. That's not what I want to think about my representatives, because I will tell you this: when I travel and I go all over the place, I'm always at a different fight in a different state. The growth in this sport is tremendous and exponential. In Georgia, it is stagnant, to say
About
the
this. We're
best.
in Georgia, Atlanta, fucking Georgia. And there's two active fight promotions, and there was only one until a year and a half ago. That makes zero sense. It
So
makes
it makes
zero sense.
It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So I just, anytime there's an opportunity to help a different promotion get active in Atlanta, I definitely take an opportunity to put my hat out there and do whatever is possible and necessary. Unfortunately, I did work with a promotion last year. That was K2S Combat. They sold
Yeah.
a lot of promises.
Yeah.
That was something that I did the marketing for. I got a couple of sponsors on board, and I did my role. I actually wasn't paid for it myself, but that's what David does. Is he'll take a negative story, something that happens, because a lot of people didn't get paid,
Right.
and he'll take that negative story and somehow he'll try to spin it into I ran the show. I'm like, no, dude, I did the marketing for it. I was able to get sponsors. If I had a little more say so, we would have probably been a little more successful, but I didn't. And that is something that, I apologize for in my life, but I just don't see why why other promotions won't get the opportunity to be present. It should, the more opportunity the better. I think that will be a really good thing for the state of Georgia. It's just not the best thing for one monopoly to be able to run the show.
Well, we're not going anywhere. We're going to fight. We've got the means. We've got the financial means. We've got the support, and we've got with Warren and his respect in the community, my ability and some of the connections I have. Well, we're not going away. So they're going to be sorely disappointed that we're going to fight, and we plan on winning. And if we don't win, we're at least going to bring people down with us and expose the truth in the process.
Absolutely. And that's all that you can really ask for. It's all you can really do. And it needs to be seen. It needs to be said. I commend you once again for your fight. It is a very valuable fight. You're only going to be known in the future as someone who helped grow the sport. You helped release and unleash the potential of the athletes in Georgia. And that's what we're really going for, man, is making sure that we help these fighters um, get opportunity and really be able to express some form of control over their careers, because up until this point, it's all been in the control of one man, and that's just not fair. It's just not fair.
Well, man, I appreciate you having us on. I look forward to it. Thanks for sharing and helping us get the word out.
Absolutely. Gary, I appreciate it so much, man. I look forward to talking to you a little bit more. We're going to be writing an article on this, and we're going to put this interview up there as well. So thank you so much for telling your story. Let's stay in touch, because I got some more information that
You got my
I would.
number. Anytime you want to share,
Yep,
just hit me up.
absolutely, man. Thanks
Hey, have
again,
a good one,
and
buddy.
you too. Appreciate it.